we are at my indoor bin. I'm just gonna get some of the worms off the lid. They hide back up in there while I have the lid off. They don't escape, they just kind of like to crawl all around the insides of the bin. So, just gonna get some of the ones off the edge, and we will look inside and see how we're doing here. Whoa, this is this is really delicate paper right now. Gets moist and then they, I think, start chewing on it, that kind of thing. But it has been about 6 days since the last feeding. I could tell that this feeding was going a little quicker, or I had put less in, but we'll start digging around here. Here was the feeding area. This is the second tray. So it's got 2 trays and this is the top one. It's been about 42 or so days since we started this. I can see a lot of the bedding that I put down to kind of absorb the feeding is still intact there. But all the food, 100% of the food is absolutely gone. So yeah, and I do have a lot of other creepy crawlers in here. Some mites, but there's also, I forget the name of them, these other beneficial insects that help break down the material in here. But so yeah, that bedding is, or that, I'm sorry, that food is gone, except for possibly banana peel. These just, the peels themselves take a while. All the fleshy stuff in between is no problem. But we'll just kind of dig in. I'm not finding any clumps of worms, just a few here and there. You know, usually I clump around a piece of food that hasn't been digested yet. Maybe an apple core or something like that. Here is a grape. This is what happens to a grape when it hasn't been totally squished. They don't quite penetrate into it, so I'm just gonna kind of squish it and break it open so that they can have at it when they're ready. Put it over there. But yeah, just a bunch of squirmy guys squirming all over. Good amount, and I've been looking in the other, the lower bin too, and they're definitely going back and forth between them. I'm gonna put a third bin on here in a little bit, and we'll see how that ends up going as far as how much they go in and out. I mean, I think this bin kind of sells itself as possibly being a situation where you have the worms keep migrating up towards the food and then you can just harvest, but either way, you're gonna have to get some worms out of the part that you're gonna harvest. So yeah, oh yeah, here's a bunch of worms right there. And one hanging down. All right, so let's dig around. While I'm digging around, I'm kind of aerating the soil too, and the bedding, and checking the moisture levels. Yeah, you can just see a mass here. I missed kind of a mass of worms. Feel them just crawling between my fingers. But yeah, oh, there's another grape. Or that's probably the same grape that I just squished. But yeah, these guys are happy as can be. And I can definitely see, and maybe if you've watched some of the videos, I can see the cardboard breaking down and becoming like mostly castings. And when I started this, it was, you know, mostly, wow, they're onto something here. This is just a massive amount of worms right here. I mean, I don't know how many I have, but that is a lot. Just absolutely a ton of worms. So I'll just kind of move this paper out of the way and just go around here. Yeah, lots of worms. Okay, enough playing with the worms. Wow, just look at that. Look at all those worms. All right, enough playing with the worms. Airing it out. We will add our feeding. This is just looking fantastic. I mean, nowhere near being ready to harvest or anything like that. Here's a banana stems, but certainly a dramatic improvement than when we just started about a month and a half ago with this top bin. So I've kind of been putting the food in different places, but I think I can just keep putting it right down here, and easy for me to capture on camera, and I've been moving it around enough that it doesn't quite matter. So I'm just gonna make a hole, make a trench really. I'll put down some of this bedding material, and even that, as much as I can kind of find around here, and even this paper that I shredded, or newspaper that kind of fell apart. But yeah, a little bit of bedding on the bottom doesn't hurt, especially because as the food thaws, it produces liquid, or the liquid comes out of it. And then that's just gonna seep through to the bottom layer, and then eventually, if you have enough of it, then it'll seep out down into the bottom that collects liquid. And I don't really want a whole bunch of that. I'd rather the moisture be such that it doesn't really need to fall out by gravity. Not that I want a lot of moisture, I just don't want to put so much moisture in. I want a good moisture to bedding ratio. And you know, because this bin does do a great job of making sure that things aren't overly moist, but it does that by basically gravity feeding down the water, so, or the liquid. All right, so we're just gonna put in, I didn't put this broccoli leaves through our juicer. These are just broccoli leaves that I put in the refrigerator thinking I was gonna juice, and I just didn't get it to it in time. So instead of juicing, I just kind of chopped them up finely, which I could have just put them straight in, but I prefer to have stuff chopped up. And these are way bigger than the pieces that I usually have out of the shredder, so I expect these to probably last longer, unfortunately. And since it's broccoli, there could be a chance of a little bit of odor from the broccoli, but I've never experienced that. I've just kind of heard of people saying that they get odor with broccoli, but I haven't. So I'm just gonna kind of put some apples down, and then of course the normal strawberries, because it is strawberry season. Just can't eat them fast enough. We try. And then strawberry tops too, because we don't eat those. Although I do, if I blend them for a smoothie or something, I'll leave the strawberry tops in. But yeah, so this will be a good healthy feeding for them. And really whatever I have in excess, I'll save for the outdoor bin. But I think we're doing a pretty good job of eating enough that we don't have too many food scraps, and using those food scraps for the worms. They're eating enough, and then if I don't have, if I'm just gathering too many, I'll just put them in my regular outdoor compost. But let's go ahead and get some coffee and tea. that's been already used. And then of course, we'll end with some grit. This is just pulverized eggshells, which they use in their gizzards to help digest the food. And I can kind of use to see how much they've gone through the feeding, because you can see the grit all throughout the material. And then next we go ahead and bury it. Definitely want to bury it, even though I have a lid. Best to bury it just in case any kind of insects try and get in here, which we don't want, as far as flies, that kind of thing. The Vermihut does have some holes in the top lid so that it can breathe, the bin can breathe. So I imagine that some flies, but then they have some kind of mesh of dried something in the top, which probably prevents any kind of flying insects from getting all the way down into here. But I really like my Vermihut. There's takes a little bit of work because I don't like that liquid being down there, so I clean that out. Just kind of rinse it off into the lawn. But I really do like this bin. And if you like this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up and a like, I'd appreciate it. And you can subscribe to my channel too. Basically just taking videos of all my feedings, and I'll do add another tier or start another bin, I'll certainly be sure to video it. But I really appreciate you watching and liking, so if you are so inclined, I appreciate it. All right, that will about do it for this bin, and I'll just throw the newspaper over and we'll call it a feeding. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good one.